Hey, what's up you guys? Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on creating a reusable slide-out menu in Swift using constraints. This is not the only way to create a slide-out menu. There's a lot of different methods, but I thought this would be the easiest way for beginners and a great way to make something that's reusable for different projects or even multiple times within one project. So first we're going to open Xcode. Once you get into Xcode, you want to create a new project. Select an app. We can call this whatever we want. Tutorial. And then keep all the settings the same. And create. So once we're inside the project, I'm going to assume you guys have used Xcode before and have made a simple app before, because I'm not going to go over all the basic stuff. But let's start by creating a new file. We're going to make a view and call it slide out menu view. And then we're going to create a class here and make this slide out menu view as well. So this is going to be the code that's associated with the slide out menu. So we'll start with this slide out menu first. You got the view here, and we want to do a few things to change it. First, you want to click this button right here, the size inspector, and you want to unselect safe area relative margins and safe area layout guide. And then in addition to that, you want to make the size freeform. And this is under here, which is the attributes inspector. So now you have this rectangle shape here, and basically we're going to change the width to be what we want the width to be for the slide out menu. You want the height to be the same because usually slide out menus take up the full height of the phone. So I want this one to be a little less than half of the screen when it's out, so we'll go with that. So from here you can add whatever components you want to the slide out menu. I'm going to be doing a simple one just for show. We'll have a label at the top. I'm just setting the constraints for it. And this will be like a title label. And then after that, we're going to have a little table view. And we can set the constraints for that as well. So it takes up everything besides the title label. So constraints are set for this, and now we want to set the file's owner as the file that we just created as slide out menu view. That way everything can connect. So now we'll go into this dual view so we can also see this other file we made, and we're going to make the outlet connections here. call this title label. And we'll just call this one table view. Alright. So now that we have that finished, we can, let's first go into main storyboard. This is going to be the main view that you first see when you load up the app. And we're going to create a new view here. And this view will load from the XIB file that we created earlier. And we'll make this the same dimensions. I made this 200. And we're going to set some constraints. So make sure you follow these constraints perfectly, or the slide out menu might not work correctly. But first, let's make it a slide out menu view. You do this inside the identity inspector. This just makes it load any of the properties we have in here. So let's do these constraints. So we want the top space to always be the same. We want the bottom space. This will make it the same height as any phone that you use it on. We want this thing to have the same width no matter what, since we set it to 200. And then we're going to set the leading space to safe area. And now everything's blue. We have all the constraints set correctly. And basically what we're going to be changing when we make this slide out menu go in and out is this leading. So when it's out, it'll be a constant of 0. When it's in, it'll be a negative 200 constant. See how it's all the way over here? So now put it back. And again, we'll go into this view so we can create an outlet connection for our slide out menu. Here we have that. And we're actually going to want to put this in a navigation controller so we can have the nav bar at the top. And you want to do root view controller here and set this to be the initial view controller. And let's change that constraint that we have there so nothing's covered. And that's perfect. So then after that we need to add a button to the nav bar to toggle, and we're going to use a bar button item. You put it right here. I believe Apple has a custom menu. I think it's called horizontal lines, and that can be used for the slide out menu. And then after that, we're going to go back to this double view here and do another connection, but this time it'll be an action. We'll call it menu button pressed. And then we're set in the view here. So first we'll have, let's go back here, and since we don't need to edit this anymore, we want the constraint to originally be negative 200 since you don't want the menu to be out at the beginning. You want it to be closed. So that's going to be negative 200. And there's one more constraint we need to set, actually. Sorry, guys. And that constraint is, or not a constraint actually, we need an outlet for our leading constraint. So we'll call this menu leading constraint. So then we'll go back to our view controller and we'll say when the button's pressed, if menu leading constraint dot constant equals 0, and then an else. So if it equals 0, that means the menu is showing. So if they press the menu button again, we'll want it to go away. So then we'll set menu leading constraint dot constant to -200. Otherwise, we set it to 0. And that's basically all the logic you need for this view controller. So we can make sure we can see this view. We're going to make it a different color, just to be easy here. We'll make it orange. And you can see when we press the button, the slide out menu appears. When you press it, it goes back in. And this is the basic function of the slide out menu. And if you wanted to create one that wasn't reusable, you could easily just add components straight onto the view controller here. The reason we're using that XIB file is so this can be reused across different projects and across a single project in case you need multiple view controllers that have the same menu. You don't want to rebuild it multiple times just for a single project. So once this is done, we still have some more work to do inside slide out menu view.swift. So right now I'm going to copy and paste some code that's a little bit difficult to remember. So if you want to just look at this video and copy it for yourself, it's to set up the XIB file to show everything that we put in the storyboard. I'm copying and pasting it now from a different project. We need to create a view so we don't need any of this here. So this is just some basic setup that you'll be needing for any reusable slide out menu. Feel free to copy any of this. It's a little bit hard to remember, like I said. It's just kind of some boilerplate stuff. And you'll want to change this to whatever the name of your file is. So you do slide out menu. We'll do slide out menu view. And this is going to register our table view cell once we create that. So in addition to this XIB setup functions that we created here, we want to make an extension for our UI table view telekit and UI table view data source. So here we're going to be putting all of our table view code. And of course we didn't implement the functions, so we load those. And here we go with our table view functions. So first we want to create a little array here. We're just going to make it a constant array. You can make this more dynamic in your project, but we're going to have some names here. We'll call it menu items. And this will be a string or an array of strings. And we'll just add some basic menu items like about us, home, privacy policy, that type of stuff. We'll just do 3 items for now, just for the demo. And for the number of rows in section, we'll want to do our menu items array dot count. And we actually want to return that. And then here, before we do this cell for row at index path, we're going to want to create a table view cell file. So we're going to do Cocoa Touch class, and we're going to do UI table view cell, and we'll call this menu table view cell, and check also create XIB file, so we don't have to go and create one manually. So here's the table view menu table view cell.swift and menu table view swift or cell.xib. And here's a simple cell. All we're going to add to this is a label. You can add whatever you want to this in your own project, but I want to keep it short and simple for this one. And we'll do a horizontal constraint, or not horizontal, I mean vertical constraint, just to center it there. And this will just be called title. And now we're going to have to connect it to the next file, menu table view cell, and we'll call this title label. Once we have this cell finished, we need to go back into our slide out menu view.swift, and we need to do some setup here in this XIB setup function. Here we're going to change this to what our cell is called, which is menu table view cell. And we want to create a reuse identifier. Here we have it set as cell, so we go back into the cell XIB. Actually, so now that we have the cell created, we can use this cell for row at index path function. So what you're going to do is create a new cell, uptype menu table view cell, and then we say table view DQ reusable cell with identifier, and this is going to be the same identifier as we set here, which is just cell. And we're going to make sure this is as a menu table view cell. Then after that, we can return the cell. So now we have a cell here, but we haven't set the title label yet. So what we want to do is we say our cell.titleLabel.text equals, we have our menu items array, and we'll say menu items index path.row, which just gets the selected row of the table view. And that's all we have to do for this table view method. And I didn't explain earlier, but this basically just sets up the table view cell, and this part will make it so any empty cells do not have cell separator lines. And that's not necessary, but it just makes it look a lot cleaner. So I forgot to mention before, we need to set our table views data source and delegate in our slide out menu view.xib. So we're going to do data source, and then we're going to do delegate right here. Once we set the data source and delegate, all of these functions that we defined in here are going to be called. So we're going to test this out again. And now we press the button and we have our menu. So we have this title label here, like we saw, and our 3 table view cells. So now we just need to define a function for when you select a cell, which we'll do in our extension, and that is called didSelectRow@. So we don't have any view controllers made right now, so we'll just do a simple print statement. We'll say selected, and then plus index path.row. So anytime we press on a cell, it'll tell us which index path dot row that we selected. So we open it up, select it, and you can see we selected index 0, index 1, index 2. And in your own implementation, you would usually want to make this go to a brand new view controller. And the final thing I want to do today is add a shadow to this menu view so you know where it's separated, because right now it looks kind of bad, everything's just white. So to add this shadow, I have a few lines of code, not really code, but basically you click on the menu or any view you want to add the shadow to. You go into this identity inspector, you press in here, and I'm going to paste it. If you want to add them individually, you can just press the plus button, but they are layer.masks2bounds, layer.shadowOffset, layer.shadowRadius, and layer.shadowOpacity. And all of these basically set up the shadow for this view. And now if we run it and take a look, you will see a nice looking shadow here. So now you can tell what's the menu and what's not the menu. So this has been a very simple tutorial on creating a reusable slide out menu. If you wanted to reuse this menu, all you would have to do is copy and paste these 4 files into a different project and then create your view inside whatever view controller you want to use it in. Some next steps you could take, of course, is making these cells lead to a new view controller. You could have gesture recognizers that will make the menu view close and open. You can add animations which make this view look a lot smoother when it appears, like a nice sliding animation, which is pretty easy to do. And that's about it for this video. Maybe next time I'll create one to show the animations getting added, and maybe showing some new view controllers and gesture recognizers. But this has been a pretty simple tutorial on creating a slide out menu, something a lot of apps use, and Apple doesn't have their own component which is easy to use, so I thought this would help a lot of you guys out, whether you're reskinning apps or just doing it for yourself or an Upwork job. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember to give it a like and give me a subscribe to help me out. Thanks again.